Assalamu alaikum, my name is Salim Siddiqui and thanks for watching this continuing series on the hotconflict.com website, and we're talking about the unseen. We're disclosing a lot of interesting things, talking about the pattern and the story of the unseen and describing some of the details from the prophets in the ancient scriptures according to the Muslim tradition of the Quran and the Sunnah, or the way or the method of the Prophet Muhammed himself. Now, we've been saying that the world is getting ready to experience changes, and people are calling this an enlightenment period, a new age, the age of Aquarius, the Ascension, the coming new evolution of man. Very different names, all people talking about different things, and I've been trying to describe some of the story according to the Islamic tradition to put things in a larger perspective. Now, various people are using different methodologies, and it is sometimes a little bit funny to me that I'm speaking using open information, common sense knowledge, and religious texts that have been known and not secret, but just misunderstood or not well publicized, but available for hundreds and thousands of years. Yet sometimes people tend to think that if they heard a channel, that there is something superior to this, or more holy, or more sacred. And it's a little bit funny because my brothers and sisters upstairs are wondering why it is that many people here believe that somebody who's channeling a message from above is somehow spiritually more pure than someone who's claiming to be openly and honest of the light here. Yes, of course, we all experience duality, and so we're unsure about things. But I say this not to boast myself, but to appropriately place my brothers and sisters who are saying, no one is supposed to be worshipped from above, except for the Creator. They have not come here seeking worship, seeking devotion. They are looking at us who are going through this process as people who recognize the signs. And each of you needs to start expressing what you see with your heart and with your mind, openly and honestly to your loved ones, and especially those who are more pure of heart or religious, quote unquote, spiritual, whatever your PC term of the day might be, and express that and get that out in the open. And one of the things I do, being a Muslim, is doing this on a large scale, is tell you that the final messenger is the final messenger. Muhammad is the seal of prophets for all of mankind to this world. And because that is so, we have been given the final word of the Lord Most High. And the prophet's life was the example for us in how to live out our life and recognize the signs. But I've been telling you a story on a grand scale from the beginning to the end. And the reason why I did that is because I told you that is the methodology of all of us of the light. We tell the story from the beginning to the end. So if you're understanding the whole pattern of things as a story from the beginning to the end, then the patterning of the prophet's life must be indicative of what we're about to experience in the process we're getting ready to have happen. Because we're said that we're getting ready to experience big changes, and people are talking about 2012 as being a dramatic change, and that is true, and we'll talk about that before the end of the night. But we've been talking more about the importance of the process, and we've been talking about the coming first contact with our brothers and sisters, and referencing that this happened before the flood of Noah, and therefore this should be happening before 2012. And we've been saying that the ascension is a process that many people are experiencing now, before 2012. So we want to keep a little bit of an open mind to what's going to occur. But let's go straight into the story of the prophet and deal with some of the actual realities of his story that we can then decipher and use as signs and signals and see if they make sense in the pattern that we're experiencing. Well, we know that the last thing that happened is that the children of Israel rejected the final messenger in their line, causing a major disturbance in the pattern. But of course, destiny and fate always has another plan. Now, this became hard for the Jews, my brothers and sisters, who didn't recognize the Messiah at the time and then created a rift. And then those who called themselves Christians on the planet were then forced to be separate from the Jews. And we know what happens in our own modern times, and we go through the whole history. But now we have from the descendants of Ishmael, back at the Kaaba, we said, which is again the center of our story, that we know from early childhood. We have the story of the elephants. Then at a young age, the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, who is born just like any one of us. We know that the last messenger was born purely a lighted, Christed being, his highest self from birth, not going through duality as a matrix, having full knowledge, speaking as a babe in arms. Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, from our Holy Mother Mary. And we know that he ascended. So there's some weird, wild stuff going on, brothers and sisters. So the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is born. Now we said the last great messenger of the Jews had the most important benefit of being recognized as the highest status of mankind. Solomon went to the highest level of the gold ring, and for those of you who don't understand that, there's deeper concepts in the gold ring. You can do more research about that and understanding this world or this matrix as a level of the gold ring. And Solomon achieved that highest level and built the best monument on the earth, the best monument on the face of the earth for his character in his role at that time. And Solomon had the benefit of having a noble father. Then we said that Jesus, son of Mary, had no father at all. And that was in itself strange. Then we have now the Prophet Muhammed being born a regular birth of a mother and father from the noble lineage of the descendants of Abraham through Ismail. So from the noble family, from the noble bloodline, but not from the sons of Jacob. Because we know that from the sons of Jacob, a rift had been created and they rejected the last messenger. The prophet has, at a very young age, his heart opened up, and the angels come down and open up his heart and purify it with pure water, a bathing ritual, and sealing it up. And this is witnessed by children and people in the community. Very strange event. We know that the prophet goes through the process of getting married and becoming a leader and businessman, a leader in business and trade, and marrying his wife. And we go through this whole process of revelation and meeting the Archangel Gabriel. And we know, like many prophets, he goes through a very, very, very difficult times. I mean, many people are rejecting him. His family, not all of them accept the faith. He grows up with his uncle. His uncle is one of the elders in the community and has a hard time accepting Islam. For to change your understanding of everything that you believe around you is a very difficult thing. And to give up the old ways and see new ways or a new pattern or a new resonance or a new frequency, or to understand that giving up all of your old pagan gods for one true God That's hard for many people. And so at that critical moment in Mecca, when he needed his uncle, who was a leader, to believe, and he wanted it so badly, being a prophet, wanting to change people, it wasn't going to happen. And at that desperate moment, the leaders of Mecca realized that this underground movement, this thing called Islam, submitting to the one true God, was going to destroy everything they had built. They had created pagan rituals for every day of the week and every day of the year, and gods and rituals, and it was such a marketing business that why destroy the system? I mean, we've got caravans coming in and trade and business and rituals, and business is flourishing and thriving. And you want us to give this all up, destroy everything, to believe in a God that we can't even see. I mean, and you don't want a statue. I mean, it always goes against everything that is pagan, is understanding that the light of your Lord is within you and within everything that you see around you. Now, this does not mean that you are the creator. This didn't mean that Jesus, son of Mary, was the creator, nor was any prophet the creator. Jesus, created without a father, was not the God, nor was Adam, peace and blessings be upon him, before or after the fall, the creator. And so Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, goes through hard times. And in this critical moment, his uncle and the leaders of Mecca gather to give him the offer, to make him the offer he can't refuse, right? A little pop culture reference there, since we're going to have some fun with this. They come to him and tell him the story. Look, you want to be a king? We'll make you the king. You want to be the mayor of the city? We'll make you the mayor of the city. You want the keys to everything? You want it to be so that no decision is made without your approval? We'll do it. You want the money and the riches? We'll give you what we have. We'll make you in charge of everything. You want the most beautiful women? They're yours. Tell us what you want, and it's yours. But don't make us give up everything we have for this idea of one true God and this belief that we're supposed to have that everything has meaning and you're a messenger. The prophet stood up, put his right hand out, put his left hand out, stood there in front of them, and said, if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, to give up what I am doing, of speaking the truth and telling what I know, I would not give it up for any of this. You have to understand that once someone knows the truth, they can't be bought, they can't be sold. It is not about money, it is not about wealth, it is not about anything. It is about something deeper than that. And so the prophet makes that statement. And of course, from that moment, he is boycotted. The community is shunned. They are kicked out. No trade is done with a Muslim. Sanctions upon all Muslims. No one is to marry a Muslim. No believer in Muhammad or his followers is to be talked to, is to be bought, is to be sold from, is to be acknowledged. Don't talk to them in the street. Shun them like they're the plague. And the truth of oneness, of belief, of light versus dark is smashed from the very beginning. And the believers have such a hard time that in those first years, they are tortured, some of them. They are beaten. Some of the wives and the women who accept Islam are kicked out of their homes. Businessmen go poor. people are forced to stay in their homes. They leave Mecca. They are shunned from the city and are forced to live in the desert. And in this time, the Prophet himself, his noble wife Khadija, passes away. Many of the believers had a very hard time. These are the early believers who believed from the beginning when it was unpopular to believe, when it was before common knowledge, when it was before everybody saw the changes with their eyes, when it was hard to know the truth. They believed at that time. They believed before everybody else. And I'm saying this and telling you this because those of you who are listening to me, I swear by Allah, if you understand the truth of the story, you are going to know the truth before everyone else. To be as-sabiqun, to be al-awwalun, the early ones, the first ones, to understand, to see, to know, to believe, as we all of the light are telling you. It is not ever seeing is believing, it is always believing, then seeing. And since this is a series of the unseen, we have to understand this, because many of us are on this search, and since we're talking about this pattern, and since we're talking about the Ascension, and we're going to go straight into the next part of the Prophet's history, which deals specifically with Ascension, I gave you this one point in the Prophet's life because I wanted you to understand that it is by seeing and recognizing that there are spiritual things going on. Okay, we've understood that we have a light soul and that we are a lighted being and that there are multiple realities and even multiple versions of ourself, and that we are trying to achieve our highest self or do in this dimension or this third dimension reality the proper etiquette or role or activity to enact our personal character. And we're saying, those of us who claim that the Prophet Muhammed is the final light worker and that we have protected the word of the Lord Most High in the Quran and that we follow his sunnah, his way or his path, we are claiming that by knowing what he did in each of the phases of his life, if you do a similar thing, you can figure out how to solve correctly the matrix scenario scenes of your life. That this life is a series of scenes comprised of levels that each one has to spiritually attain, and they are attainable at any speed or rate that you need to attain them. And it is always up to you. It is up to you to see the patterns of your life, and if you do that and follow them, you will achieve enlightenment or a higher level and go upon your journey. It is a path, a light worker, a way shower, a path shower. It is a process, as we said. All of these things, Ascension, 2012, enlightenment. Islam is not a religion, all Muslims will tell you. It's a deen, it's a way of life, it's a process, it's a sunnah, it's a methodology of living. And so, you have to understand, those of you who are trying to achieve this state of enlightenment of your soul to ascend. I'll give you a simple example. Here's a reference to my brother Sai Baba. Because I'm always telling you that the Prophet's example is the final messenger to all people, and that will be disclosed. But just one example of his life, Sai Baba teaches people, if you sit there and meditate, on try to achieve timelessness. Try to achieve a state beyond time. Try to teleport beyond time. Teleportation for all you sci-fi fans. But what we call Tayil Ard for all you Sufi brothers and sisters. The idea that the earth can be folded, just like time or anything can be folded. However you conceptualize it, the process is the same. Now Sai Baba will tell you, imagine taking deep breaths. Take a few deep breaths. Let's do this, brothers and sisters. It'll be a little bit funny, but you can feel the vibration because I just took a deep breath. And I can feel it. Bismillah. So you take a deep breath and Sai Baba will say, now imagine up in the air to your right, there's a sun. And you see that radiant sun and its shining radiance. You imagine that sun. It's a full shining sun, radiant. It's hard to do this without laughing so much. And then you imagine the moon, and then you imagine them both, and you see that radiant full moon, and then you merge them both together, and then you bring that energy and you bring it deep into your core, and then you achieve timelessness. One with everything, and you can go beyond time. Now, to my brother Sai Baba, I'm not making fun of any of the brothers who do this. I'm not making fun of the exercise at all. And I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because honesty is truth. And I've done the exercise myself and sat there. And what you're trying to do is achieve this sense of spirituality. But what I want you to realize something. Here's something very funny that my brother Sai Baba always mentions this, and that we're trying to achieve that state. But I want you to see that this essence is the very example of the Prophet Muhammed from his life. That in this story you have there someone who in their actual life, in this third dimension reality, was at the point of a situation where they were offered everything. They were offered the keys to everything. They were offered the riches, the gold, the women, the position, the status, and the messenger said, if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left. And he stood in the traditional way. You can imagine the three-dimensional Michelangelo position with the hands and the legs, and then forming that perfect sun and the moon, pulling it into the core, and he drew it into himself. And the reason why he did that is it was part of his character. Now, when you people are spiritually trying to achieve that, just imagine for a second what it is for a person who actually lived that their avatar, their character, their archetype personality lived that moment, not just imagined it in a spiritual thinking breath, but lived that moment in reality, and he chose no. He chose to turn it all down. Everything of this dunya, everything of the world, he turned it down for his truth of what the Lord had given him. If you understand that kind of concept, then you understand why my brother Jesus, son of Mary, ascended before him and let it go. For he knew what was going to happen later. He knew about his brother coming after him, and he knew what was his mission at the end. And the prophet at that moment knew the truth. It could not be undone, and nothing from this world can make a person who believes and knows the light and tasted. Anybody who has tasted it, anybody who has felt it, anybody who has known the halawatul iman, the sweetness of faith, as we say in Islam. Anybody who's tasted that sweetness ever, you can't get them to change their mind. Never. So let me ask you, brothers and sisters. We are all trying to gain that spirituality. But my Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, lived that moment and stood that truth in this reality at the hardest moment, when it was not easy to do. And the repercussions, they were hard. They were not easy. And so when you sit there and when you meditate, and all my brothers and sisters who I say to you with love and peace, who follow the teachings of Sai Baba, take this message to him and say to him, your brother Salim has said to you, Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you. And I ask you a simple question. When you take that spirit to your core, and when you go into a state of timelessness, when you synchronize yourself and focus in on that breath, and when you focus in and bring that resonance and that light, and when you get to that moment where your body focuses in on that resonance and the frequency is perfect, where the soul is perfectly able to travel and achieve that timeless state, You are at your highest self, doing as the Prophet Muhammed did, peace and blessings be upon him. In reality, when you achieve that vibration, whose vibration are you actually thinking of? Have you not realized yet, oh my brothers and sisters, that what you're thinking of and what you're channeling in and what you're focusing in there is the vibration and the light of the nur of my Prophet sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. أفلا يتدبرون أفلا يتدبرون